I can't see. Are we ready?
Everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is. This is who I am. This is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to go. I'm not the one to start hands. Giving him the best of everything that's left of. The life inside this man, I've been born again.
Oh, all right. Just had to get that had to get at the top of my head.
The tall boy.
It's funny because I got some hairs cut. I didn't get a hair. I got a whole bunch of them cut.
Last week, you were way up in the corner of the screen.
I was in the corner.
I can't do that to Eddie.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for thinking of me.
Hey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yes, to somebody who I know is not listening, and that's Thomas Jefferson. It's his birthday today.
Tommy.
Yes, as in he's somebody that, of course, wrote the Declaration of Independence. Probably. Am I on? There. Now I'm on. That was me.
It wasn't me.
That was my low-tech switch. But Thomas Jefferson's birthday today. He is one for whom John F. Kennedy, the day he invited all of the top astrophysicists into the White House to discuss the lunar project, going to the moon. He stood up, he said, never before has there been this much intelligence in this room since Thomas Jefferson dined here alone. but really, Jefferson, I attribute more his wisdom than his knowledge.
Right.
He was a William and Mary graduate, but his wisdom.
And he was a slave owner. No, I told that.
But he married her and they had 6 kids. Actually, he didn't marry her.
He didn't marry her, but yeah.
Yeah. He was getting it on like a good Frenchman, right?
A good Frenchman,
because he was our ambassador to France.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's so crazy what people want to do and will do, to disparage a name.
Mm-hmm.
It gets me. Black people want to make such a big deal about slavery,
mm-hmm.
and they want to forget that the first case of permanent slavery, the thing that enshrined slavery in America, was that a black man bought and enslaved for life another black man.
Oh.
Yeah, it's all in that book.
Oh.
Again.
Get the book.
Get the book.
That's where he gets the term, we all have sinned. Or y'all
have sinned, yeah.
Even the black folk have sinned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Y'all have sinned. But no, Native Americans have slaves. Black Africans have slaves before they ever came here. Black Americans had slaves. Europeans had slaves. Indians, Chinamen,
mm-hmm.
Japanese, every nation had slaves.
Mm-hmm.
It was the way of the world.
Yeah.
It was human nature.
Mm-hmm.
No one's trying to justify it. It is what it was.
Yeah,
and it's still going on in Islamic nations around the world. Yet these idiots want to somehow uphold Islamic culture
mm-hmm. over
the Western culture,
right?
Because they haven't read a book.
Right.
They're ignorant. And,
yeah.
and I believe it's purposely ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
You always, for some reason, some people always want to denigrate their own culture, the youth. I'll give this. This is our little warm-up introduction every week where I go off on these rants.
Of course. In about an hour, we'll start the show.
Yeah. This is how you end up with a lot of, let's say, some of this prosperity gospel. I'll throw it out there, but I won't go that direction. I remember when I was a young Christian, I was maybe saved a month, mm-hmm. maybe 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a young guy. We used to have a Tuesday night Bible study with our pastor. He wasn't our pastor at that time because we didn't even have a church. We were just a fellowship of a bunch of hippies. Those of you that watched us in the past know that I came out of the whole Jesus movement, mm-hmm. culture, Jesus Revolution movie. Well, Calvary Chapel planted a church in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
That was an offshoot of Calvary. It was called Jesus Chapel. And so anyway, this Ken Gullickson, one of the original elders at Calvary Chapel, who founded the Vineyards, by the way. So he's the one who established, and we became a church. So anyway, we'd have this Tuesday night church, or I'm sorry, it was a Bible study.
I don't care. It was a church in the spirit of what a church is.
Thank you. So we had this Tuesday, and so this young brother was asked to lead it, and he was ambitious and wanted to go to seminary.
Yeah.
So he decided to teach. And so we get there, and he got up and he says, I have to confess, all week I've been looking to find something in the Word. I may have told this story before.
Yeah, twice.
Oh, well, this would make three's a charm.
But you're listening this week, so he's going to tell it for you.
Three's the charm.
Yes.
So I've been looking all week for something that no one's ever found before. And I want to teach it in a way that no one has ever taught before. And finally, halfway through the week, I couldn't do it. And he ended up just teaching what he felt God showed him to teach. And it was a phenomenal deal. But it is a symptom of youth. It's something that young people tend to do. We always want to be revolutionary, come out with something new. We don't want the same old, the stale old thing that our parents, or especially our grandparents did, or our forefathers did. So we've got to be hip, cool. And so that's what is going on with, I believe, this generation. And so because we've done the hippie thing, we've done the typical anti-establishment thing, that's not, because what used to be the anti-establishment in the 60s is no longer the anti-establishment now. They're the establishment.
The tyrants.
They're the ones who are ruling now.
Intolerant.
So who, what do we want to do now? So we've got to go abroad. We've got to go to the real new radical idea in their minds, which is Islam, which stands against all Judeo-Christian American ideal, which is radical Islam. So you've got homosexuals who Muslims are throwing off buildings, burning alive, chopping to pieces, doing all these horrible things, yet the idiots in our nation are out marching for them, dressed in drag and everything else, gay for Islam, or gay to free Palestine, and things like this, because in their ignorant minds, they're thinking that they're helping the cause. And if we help the cause, who knows, they may accept us. Yeah. No, it ain't going to happen. Yeah. They will accept you right to the gallows or the rooftop, maybe the Empire or the new, the Empire State Building, to see what kind of splatter you'll make on the ground. That's the kind of what the tolerance they will accept. Try it in Dearborn, Michigan, right? The home of America's new Islamic State. Yeah, look what we got for our openness to immigration. We get Dearborn, Michigan, where they had a rally last week, all shouting "Death to America." Yeah. So anyway, so that's what's going on, and we've got to stop. We've got to stop it, and the the Democrats. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. I can't, especially the Jews in Congress. Goldman, and I know what they're thinking. They're most of them are wealthy, okay? They're stinking rich, and they think that somehow their wealth is going to shield and protect them from these people down below. From Muslims. Well, yeah, right. Yeah, you're a rich Jew, the Muslims won't hate you. Well, no. It's not that they won't hate you; they'll hate you, but they won't be able to touch you, because as we saw when Governor DeSantis. No, I'm sorry, Governor from Texas.
Abbott.
When Governor Abbott got a plane load and shipped them to Martha's Vineyard, they shipped them. They bust them right off the island.
Yeah.
So the rich white folks are the same as the rich white folks of yesteryear.
Yeah.
They still don't want the riffraff on there, and it's not about color. It's forget the color, because there are black rich folks on Martha's Vineyard as well. They just live on they just live on a different part of the island, and they don't want them on there any more than the white folks do. It's not about color; it's about economics, and status. And so, in fact, there's white people they don't want on the island, and on Long Island and in different places, Kennebunkport and places like that. So it's as it always was, but somehow these people feel that they will be able to keep the riffraff away from them. It's like the French Revolution. Once it starts, Democrats, I'm going to tell you, you may think you're doing a good thing, but once it starts, you won't be able to stop it. It's like Rush Limbaugh used to play the song "The Snake." You know that? You remember that song? About the lady that saw the poor snake and she took care. It was dying. It was freezing. She brought it in. She warmed it. She nourished it. And I think she slept with the snake. And then all of a sudden, one day the snake bit her. And it was a poisonous snake, and it bit her in the neck, and she's dying. And she's saying, "Why did you bite me?" And the snake says, "Oh, silly woman. Why are you wondering why I bit you? You knew I was a snake. That's what I do." Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, this is where we are, and this is what, when you got these gays and women and all of these groups that, by nature, Islam's teaching is against and abhors. And they're all for bringing this culture in. And what will happen when it happens, if it actually takes over, and these people, "Oh, well, we didn't know this was going to what happened? Why doesn't somebody do something?" It's because the people who would do something are the ones that you got rid of.
Okay, let's just delve into it, because I think there's even deeper levels of this. It's the spiritual pride. It is the arrogance. If you remember when Charlton Heston famously read the preface to Jurassic Park, it basically is, who do we think we are? And you got these elitist secular humanists who think they can end poverty by the force of human will through socialism. It's failed every time, but it hasn't been tried by them yet.
Right.
You know, we think we can end what we call climate adjustment or climate ebb and flow. They'll call it climate change. Do it. And that's where Charlton Heston says, no, you'd have. But it is this arrogant at the base of it.
They think they're going. And what have they done? They've exacerbated. It's now.
They've used racism thinking it'll end racism.
Right. And what's happened, you've caused reverse racism now to accelerate.
Yeah.
To where Black people literally hate you, even the good ones. They don't like anybody white now, really.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse, particularly among females.
You know, you've driven in snow. You're a car insurance guy. You know this. When people all of a sudden they start veering off to one side in the ditch, more often than not, they'll oversteer to another ditch. And we've done that with our social engineering so many times. We've got more racism today. It's just the other side. Right. And they don't think they're guilty.
It was self-correcting. And I want to go back again. And again, this is one of these episodes where I think we're repeating. but I ask you to send this to people, this segment at least, because I've talked about this before. Thomas Jefferson, who we were speaking about, it's his birthday. This is how all this started.
It's my fault.
Yeah, it's all right. Whitey. No. So when he inserted that one phrase, all men are created equal. Okay. That was a time bomb. It was a time bomb inserted in the Declaration of Independence to go off at some point in the future. The framers knew that slavery could not endure forever. In fact, they put things in place for it to end. They saw its end. Now, Southern plantation owners tried to fight it, and they kept trying to make laws to circumvent it. And what Abraham Lincoln did was say, look, we just got to get this over with. We can't continue, a chess move. We're going to make these states free states, and then the Democrats come along and make this one a slave state as we were branching out, making more and more states, territory states. The Republicans or a certain part of the legislature would make a new free state. Then the Democrats would come in, we're going to make this one a slave state, and then this one makes it We're going to be a country. Make up your mind. We've got to make up our mind. And then at one point he said, forget it. We can't do anymore. We're getting rid of slavery because it was starting to happen. And whether he had a position one way or another, it's kind of like the positions on not Kosovo, Ukraine right now. It's got to stop. We got to quit sending money. The other theme of their creator was certainty and the pursuit of happiness. That was stuck in there. That at some point it went boom. And it has, the Democrats, they are using it because when they can control the minds of the Black people, see, they want to keep Black America agitated, fighting, and Hispanics and any.
And then afterwards, Adams became ambassador to England when we signed that treaty with him. But there's a famous scene. I love the musical 1776, depicts that time at Continental Congress, where they're arguing Jefferson, because Jefferson wrote the draft of the Declaration, and then the other guys on the committee started picking it apart, including John Adams. And then Adams, there was some little Scrivener's thing of, what's the proper phrase? And then Adams says, I went to Harvard. And Jefferson says, I went to William and Mary. And it was like they were both proud of where they went to. But I want to say something. This has to do with universities. I don't consider Jefferson as much an intellectual giant as a wisdom giant. And we don't teach wisdom at our universities. We teach groupthink. We indoctrinate. And it's now more so than ever. If you don't use the right pronouns, you're out. You disagree on just so many things and you're gone.
Oh, yeah.
They will destroy you. And this is not what a university was designed for. Literally, Oral Roberts talked about when he built ORU, he said, look, we are going to get every theory, every philosophy, but we're also going to open up the Bible and get the truth. You know, it's so important to get in Proverbs, as Solomon said, in all you're getting, get wisdom.
Yep.
It's the chiefest thing.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. And it's just the whole system of education, it begins at the top. Mm-hmm. And it is one of the reasons that I'm in public education right now, as our higher education is a mess. They're not learning up here.
No.
And so when you're putting out ignorant teachers that are teaching ignorance, they really don't care. I mean, it was a degree. They got a degree. They're going to teach. They figure, oh, I'll do that. And it's funny. I mean, I hate to say that, but the smart teachers, the really intelligent ones, end up leaving the teaching and end up other pursuits afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
And the worst idea ever was the one, I guess, came about. I can't remember whether during Clinton or Obama's reign, as I want to say, but was when they decided they're going to pay college graduate or wipe out their student loan debt if they would teach.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they don't have a teaching degree or any kind of education degree,
yeah,
you could major in PE and end up becoming a teacher. And there was only one reason they were teaching, and that is to get their student debt forgiven.
Oh, yeah. And before teaching, you could get that through doing Peace Corps work. That was one of the first things.
Yeah, you could go work for the Peace Corps.
Or at least they deferred your loan payments during that time.
But to start giving teachers or making teachers out of people that had no business teaching and had no intention of teaching. They had no desire to teach.
Yeah.
They really didn't care about the kids. They didn't really want to teach or anything. That was a big mistake. Mm-hmm. It was doomed to failure before it began.
Yeah. My kids, I homeschooled all of them from the beginning. And at times in their college years, when they would see other people who come from a whole different track of learning, they felt a little bit, they express, different ones of my kids express at different times, a certain sense of they missed out on this or that. Every kid feels that way, regardless. And I finally said to one of my kids, I said, look, I went to public school. It was actually pretty good by today's standard, actually very good by today's standard. But I said, every day I was told what I can't do. And I said, I wanted to focus on telling you kids what you can do and motivate you, not use education as a punishment, but as a discovery tool. And you know whether or not it's stuck by does that kid continue to love learning and continue to advance through their.
Well, just think of some of the great minds of the 1800s. I remember watching the HBO show John Adams and about John Quincy.
Yeah.
And how Quincy, and I think he was 12 years old, 12 or 13, they assigned him a tutor. And it was just him and this guy, and they started traveling. And he ended up in Sweden, I think, somewhere in Scandinavia. He went all over. He was in France, and then he ended up in Scandinavia and all over. But he always had this tutor, and the tutor would just ask him questions about stuff. Here, read this book, and he had to read these books, and then he had to sit there, and they would just talk. It wasn't really a test. He would ask him the questions about his knowledge, and the same with Booker T. Washington. Booker T. met this black man on the plantation where he was working, or it was a salt mine.
Okay.
In West Virginia, and he was working in this mine, and this man started tutoring him, and where he learned was on this thing called the the primer. What was it called? The New England primer.
Okay, yeah, to learn how to read.
Right. Oh, I wish I could remember the official name.
Yeah.
It's the something primer. Mm-hmm. Primer is what we might call it today, but they call it the primer back then. Anyway, I actually have two of them at my house. This friend we had him in here, remember? He came in and he gave me, did you get one? Did he give you one of the copies of the little New England? It's the New England primer.
Yeah.
Primer. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and when I looked at it, I was expecting some big, thick book, this really heavy and incredible, tome, this big book, heavy.
Yeah.
And it's this little thing that's probably 200 pages, but it's only, it's like a 4x5 little booklet, I guess you would call it. And, but this is what Booker T. Washington learned and became educated on. And there's a clip of Booker T speaking on YouTube. You can hear him actually speak, and the eloquence of this guy, and just the knowledge that he had. Some of the books that he actually wrote himself are just amazing. That you think about it. That here's a guy that was a slave until he was 9 years old, lived on a slave plantation, and then worked in salt mines as a runner in the salt mines. Yeah. And then as a houseboy for the owner of the mines, to become the founder of a university, established university, which it became and still is an incredible Tuskegee. Well, we know about the Tuskegee Airmen, but still today, Tuskegee puts out engineers. It has a hotel management school down there. It's a great place. I've been among the black universities. I'd say it's one of the fine ones. Clark Atlanta in Atlanta is another. Yeah,
and they started out focusing on the trades, not so much the sciences. Right. Although you had guys like George Washington Carver that, with this technology and farming, really got into sciences. But anyway, I want to say wisdom is something that I believe is a gift of God, that God endows as our creator. And you have to respect wisdom and do not smash it out of another person through indoctrinating, through intolerance. I would say, I'm wearing this shirt today. Now, this is not from the Declaration, which Jefferson wrote the draft. This is a constitution. It starts out with "We the people," in order to form a more perfect nation. Not a perfect, but a more perfect nation. And it says here, it doesn't need to be rewritten, as we've talked about. It needs to be reread. Al, you talked about your friend wanting a dazzling sermon. And truth is most powerful in its purest form. Jesus said, "The words I say to you, they are spirit, they are life." The more you get away from the pure word of God, the more diluted that teaching becomes. And so as C.S. Lewis wrote Mere Christianity, or basic, pure Christianity. Chuck Colson, who is, talks about, it was that book that introduced him to Jesus. And I just believe that wisdom is truly a gift from God. It comes out of righteousness. Proverbs says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is reproach to any people. And the further we've got into our decadence, then all of a sudden what Paul said about God will turn us over to a reprobate mind. You'll literally, you look at our universities today. We don't even know what a man or woman is. Yeah. With that, you are wasting your time sending your kid to a leftist liberal indoctrination school.
Right. Unless they are going to stand against, or as Paul said, kick against the pricks.
Yeah. Even the universities that are trying to not become that are having struggles. I know some people have gone off the deep end as students at ORU.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, no, some great people come out of ORU too. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that's true. Hilldale, Liberty, I mean, you name it.
Because what's going to happen, it always happens. You're going to get people, whether purposely or just accidentally because it's in their nature, you're going to get, again, it's that rebellious spirit that are going to want to fight against the culture of that university. Yeah. And this is what happened at your Harvards, Yales, Princetons, William and Mary, all of these, Dartmouth. Dartmouth basically was founded as an Indian school, a school to train Native Americans for the future. And look what it's become. It's become another liberal Ivy League school. Yeah. That's all it is. And there's so many of those around, not to mention our local state schools. I mean, it's just ridiculous, some of the things that are going on there. And these boards are hiring presidents, and they're looking at where they came from instead of what they're bringing. Yeah. And that's really sad. Yeah.
Probably the greatest American political speech I've ever read is Lincoln's second inaugural address. Lincoln was homeschooled. Mm-hmm. He even homeschooled his way to becoming an attorney. Mm-hmm. You just studied and you took the bar exam. Right. We talked about, Booker T. Washington. John Adams. Largely self-educated. I'm just saying, the wisest Americans.
Thomas Edison.
Yes.
He finished the sixth grade.
I mean, Willie George, one time I heard him talking about, in Proverbs, there's one phrase, he says, there is a translation that says, God gives us knowledge and wisdom and the power to create witty inventions, one translation puts it. Insights. I mean, these things, enlightenment is truly a gift of God. Yeah. And when we turn our back on God, we are leaving all of that. And then we go to groupthink, where we want to control everybody else to be just like us.
Yeah. Oh, I think, did we talk about last week about Oculus? Palmer Luckey.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, another one. Yeah. 12 years old, and he just developed this thing on his own, never went to college. He didn't go to college. Mm-hmm. Developed Oculus, and now he's into all kinds of he had this virtual border fence with these drones and things, and he went from virtual reality to augmented reality, which I really don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. But it's just the mind. Think of it, the mind of a 12-year-old boy, where most 12-year-old boys are starting to like girls and think about girls, present company included. When I was 12, that's what I thought about. Sports and girls. I'm the typical guy. Sports, girls, and cars, probably in that order. Okay, so you might switch the first two, but generally that's the order that a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid gets into. Here's Palmer Luckey in a trailer that his parents had outside the house that he moved into and lived in, and 2 or 3 Commodore 64s that people had gotten rid of. And he ends up developing the Oculus system, which Apple basically bought and stole from him, and is now the #1 virtual reality gaming system. But it's what the military also uses for training purposes and things like that. But the augmented reality is actually, they've taken what you have in virtual, but I think what the augmented reality is where you mix the virtual with the real. So you take it out. The military, it has military purposes and other functional purposes. But anyway, it goes with what you're saying about all these people. Thomas Edison, Einstein, all these people, it wasn't their formal. I don't even think. I think, as I understand, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, I don't think they finished college.
No,
I think they all went and dropped out.
Freshman year for Gates at Harvard.
Right.
You know, you come from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
His parents are both attorneys. Yeah, Jobs, I don't know that he even finished one semester.
Yeah.
He was more into LSD than anything else. Yeah.
So you got these guys that, you know, you can see it. And what happens, these universities seek out these people because they want them there. But sometimes these guys are so brilliant. They're too brilliant for the school. Or as they used to say, too cool for school, you know.
Yeah, the same son of mine that, you know, complained about his homeschool education, without even a semester of college under his belt, University of Minnesota offered him a professorship. You know, and he turned it down, you know. But it just, you know, hey, when you're making $250,000 a year for Forbes or something like that, you know, I'm just saying, our education establishment oftentimes will suppress our development. Mm-hmm. My mother was born left-handed. They forced her to become right-handed.
Same with mine.
Yeah, and, you know, what is it about
She tried to force me to become right-handed.
See, Germans used to think it was a sign of mental illness.
Yeah, and but they told her, no, we don't do that anymore.
Right. Yeah, you know, so I'm just thinking creativity. Edith Schaefer, Francis Schaeffer's widow, was talking to, she says, you know, do not suppress your children's creativity. You know, she and Francis largely developed their kids' education, you know. And that's the thing I want to say. Parents, God holds you responsible for the training, upbringing of your kids. You may choose to delegate some of that, but you need to know God holds you responsible. He gave those children to you. If you do delegate, which I'm not against, do so wisely. Do not allow others to harm your children or to curtail their development.
Right. That's true, because a school can actually hinder a child's development.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen.
As much as I enjoy my journalism pursuits and stuff, I used to hate writing because it was a form of punishment. If I screwed up, I had to write an essay. In 4th grade, I was taught that it is a punishment to have to write.
Yeah, same here in junior high. Guess what I had to write? The Apostles' Creed.
Oh.
Can you imagine being forced to write the Apostles' Creed 10 times out of punishment?
Yeah. I had to write the same sentence.
The same
200 times. I will not throw snowballs at girls.
But think about it, you know, that Mother Superior comes in and says you will write the Apostles' Creed, you know, and that's a pretty long creed. Yeah. And, you know, and you would think it should. Now today, you know, I love the Apostles' Creed. Yeah. The Nicene Creed to you theologians out there. Yeah. But, you know, I believe in one God, the Father, Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Okay. It's one that, what do you mean, okay? Wait, I'm not finished.
No, I
this guy, he gets so excited he can't wait to jump in.
I was actually talking to the Holy Spirit, believe it or not.
You weren't talking to me.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. But anyway, but yeah, you would think that that's something that today, you know, I love the Apostles' Creed. In fact, it helped me many times to say it when I was in certain situations. We won't go into that. But back then, I'm in Catholic school, and I hated the Apostles' Creed. They made me hate that because
they made you recite prayers.
Yeah, but I mean, to sit there as punishment to have to write the Apostles' Creed so many times, you was just
See,
punishment.
I never made my kids say the Pledge of Allegiance. I made them write their own. You see what I'm getting at? It should come from the heart. Mm-hmm. It should be creative. It should be expressive. You should walk away from writing something with a sense of a release. I want what I was saying okay to. Something you said about your church. I'm tying into what I'm saying about homeschooling because it's the same basic point. My kids felt like coming right out of high school, they didn't quite have what they needed, the bare requirements, in order to advance in academics in higher ed. But when it came down to it, they had all the stuff they needed and they had it in spades. But it wasn't considered by the establishment to be an actual school. And yet it was more school than most of the public schools are today. It's the same basic point as when you said we weren't really a church. But I said, to you, in the essence of it, it might have been more of a church.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't any government sanctioned with a license from the state to be a church. What's wrong with that picture?
Right, right.
And we get it all backwards.
Mm-hmm.
The thing you really want to get is that intangible that only comes from God.
Right.
And no diploma is going to give you that.
No, you're exactly right.
I mean, look, you started a record label. You wanted to find people with songwriting, performing, actual talents, gifts, not diplomas. Diplomas don't make it in pop music.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry. So that was my point. It ties into your whole church point. Right. Get the essence. Don't worry about the certificates. When I was getting ready to go to Bible school, I talked to my pastor as a young Christian. I said, no, what am I going to do when it comes time to get ordination? He said, don't even think about that. When the time comes and you have got what God wants you to have, you'll have the ordination. It'll come. You don't need some mail order, preaching certificate. Yeah. You need the real thing.
No, that's true. Like I was at a Baptist church and the pastor wanted me to become one of the junior pastors. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, thank you. I don't ever, later they did license me, but I never went for the actual ordination because I never want to be called pastor or reverend. I shun the term reverend. It's like Jesus said, don't call me father, never be called father because there's one father. And I don't know how the Catholic Church missed that. I mean, it's all over the Gospels. How did you not read that? It's called no man father because you have one father in heaven. But anyway, and what it means, but it's not saying don't call your father, dad, Abba, whatever. It means don't call anyone father as in God, a replacement for God. But anyway, same with, reverend, and it's so crazy, and I'm juxtaposing again. I'm getting a little off, but the black church father or pastor's not enough, or reverend's not enough. Now you got to be prophet or apostle,
right?
Apostle so and so, or prophet so and so. Yeah, and then you got all these people that are now apostles and bishops, bishop so and so, because he's got all these, and so what they do, they make all these young guys pastors real quick so they can become a bishop, because to be a bishop you have to have pastors under you. And you're making people pastors or reverends that shouldn't be, and the whole thing is just a straw house.
Yeah, how you get all these titles on people on their business cards or on the marquees. They'll put, PhD or MS or, or like down the hall here, you got LPC, licensed practical counselor, and that. So when I started advocating at the Capitol on mental health, NAMI, which I was the president of the local chapter, they would have business cards for us to use when we're representing them. Well, they had to print off a bunch for mine because when I'm at the Capitol, I'm handing my cards to everybody. But unlike all of the professional people from the health sciences corporations, Red Rock, Family and Children's Services, Creoaks, all that. And they've all got all these letters, comma, another set of letters in that. I just put David Van, NAMI Tulsa, NIAMN. And a few people would say, hadn't seen that NIAMN. What does that mean? It means no initials after my name. But people get too dependent on that degree.
Oh, I know people that get indignant. They get upset if you don't call them doctor, because I worked hard for that. Or remember Barbara Boxer getting mad at somebody in one of her hearings because they
didn't call her senator. They said ma'am.
Right. Ma'am.
It was a military general.
Yeah, right. And come on, lady, just the guy's trying to answer your question. Who cares? Everybody knows you're a senator. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Some people just too big for their britches.
Well, and largely we get tied up. The church I used to go to, there'd be one of the professors at Oral Roberts Medical School. I'd call him doctor, say doctor, but I'm just Dave. And I wouldn't play into that because James says you treat everybody in the church on the same level.
Yeah. Or you had some of those. I know one my son used to play soccer with one, and an ORU professor, and he was adamant you had to call him doctor so-and-so, and I said, I'm hey, what's going on? I wouldn't even call him by his name because if I had to put doctor in front of it, it wasn't happening. No, I will call somebody doctor if they don't ask me to. And I appreciate their title because they show themselves to carry themselves in that way. But if I meet you on a soccer field, on a basketball court, in fact, I do have friends that are doctors or of various philosophy and and usually, hey, doc, what's going on? It's not doctor, it's doc, and they just, and they understand that. I mean, the true measure of the man is not his title. We all know that. Yeah. So, hey, we better probably move on. Let's do this sports thing real quick and we'll move on. The NCAA tournaments finally ended and we had two winners. Let's do the guys first. We'll do it. As a friend, you say bass backwards. The guys, UConn again.
Yes,
UConn
they repeated.
Yeah, they repeated. UConn is good. I mean, it's just a school, boys and girls. I mean, they know how to train and recruit basketball players.
Yeah, both their boys and girls got to the Final Four.
To the Final Four. They were hoping for a double.
That would have been rare.
That would have been, yeah.
Yeah, them and North Carolina had that distinction.
Right.
Both guys and gals made,
but the guys pulled it off. They beat Purdue, which was a real shocker. How did Purdue actually?
They dominated.
Yeah. How Purdue even got there? Because all season, did you hear of Purdue all year?
Well, the Big Ten was weak this year.
But I know, but that didn't answer my question. Did you hear of Purdue all year?
This is my answer to it. They didn't have much.
Answer. No. How about answering my question before you get to your answer? Yeah. Did you hear of Purdue all year?
No. That's the short answer.
All right. Thank you.
And the reason why they didn't have, like in football, you got Ohio State, Michigan, right? And you got that job. You got Duke and North Carolina, right? There's Purdue and nothing much else. Illinois did okay. But you didn't have that. Same thing with who is it? Arizona out in the Pac-12.
Right.
They didn't have much else in the Pac-12 to sharpen them.
Right.
So they dominated their conference.
But the conference wasn't highly regarded.
Yeah.
Which is weird because the Big 12 was highly regarded.
Yes.
And then they just
very underperformed.
Yeah. By the way, Dave, what did you say was on the door down the hall?
Counselor.
Yeah.
Licensed practical counselor.
Yeah.
Professional
I
counselor.
think I'm going to send you down there.
Okay.
For them. Sit.
Yeah.
And teach you how to answer questions.
I know a lot of counselors. Listen, I have sought life coaches. That's what I call them. They're coaches.
Okay.
Yeah, and they help me be a better person.
Okay, I'd like you to just be a better question answerer.
Yes.
No. No.
Yeah. Short answer,
no. Senator.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so then, so UConn, but the big thing of the whole end of the season and tournament and everything was a young lady named Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Iowa basketball. Mm-hmm. And Iowa, who made it all the way to the final against South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Now, Caitlin Clark, Iowa was not picked to go all the way because they didn't have the season they had last year. And one of the real games was the semifinal that they had against LSU, mm-hmm. because LSU beat them last year. Mm-hmm. And there was a big controversy between her and one of the LSU players. And, but they dispatched them. Abby just killed. But the team itself was really good. And then they went into the final to play South Carolina. Now, here's the problem with South Carolina. They were undefeated. And they're still undefeated because they ended up beating Iowa. And I think what I saw was Caitlin Clark was just tired. She scored 18 points in the second quarter. But in the second half, I think she scored 12 in the whole half.
Well, first quarter. And the girls play quarters. First quarter, she got 18.
Second quarter.
It was first quarter she got 18.
I thought it was second. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll check it. But okay. But anyway, she had a great first half. Mm-hmm. And so then in the second half, she just mm-hmm. petered out. Mm-hmm. And I think that she was just tired. I think because you could tell she was missing the rim. They were stealing the ball from her, which was very uncustomary. In fact, I saw some people saying about how great this guard for South Carolina was because she was stealing the ball from Caitlin Clark. And as I saw it, it was more Caitlin just wasn't paying attention. She wasn't her usual sharp self. And so I think fatigue finally hit her because I never saw her subbed in any of the games.
That's where I want to go to on this.
Did you see her subbed? Did she ever?
No. Mm-hmm. This is where I want to go to. The whole substitute situation was all the difference. South Carolina had 9 players that played a huge chunk. And in fact, the first 8 points South Carolina got came from their bench. Mm-hmm. Okay, because remember, they were getting dominated early from the start. The top 5 of Iowa is better than the top 5 of South Carolina.
Right.
But that's substituting a conference, because now all of a sudden Caitlin's, okay, now who am I up against? And so she had to, as the game went on, she got more confused about how her opponent was going to play because she had so many.
Yeah.
And she's exhausted. They're always fresh.
Yeah. I see more exhaustion than confusion, but the exhaustion can add to the confusion.
Yeah. But
and the thing about South Carolina, 2 of their star players for that game were freshmen. Mm-hmm. 2 of this one of them was just hitting 3-point shots mm-hmm. like crazy, just everything chunk chunk. Whereas Iowa wasn't hitting. But I want to get to a bigger point.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so much, I call it black girl hate. Right now, the black female is the most hateful animal in America. it's just sad. It's out of control. It's passing down. And so you have, and what's crazy is the black woman right now is probably getting the biggest breaks of any person, male or female, any animal, I'll say animal, in human animal, there is, because whether it's in employment, in entertainment, in advertising, you cannot turn on your TV and see a commercial without a black female in it. I mean, literally. Turn on your TV. Black females rule. In sports, black females. If it's a sport that they want to play. On basketball and football now, you always have a female with a male doing sports. Commentators.
Yeah.
For the NCAA, now you had a black girl and a white guy, I think, doing the actual play-by-play. But as the commentators, they had these 4 or 5 women sitting around, all black women. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the teams now, all black. And so many of these commentators, especially the women, and sadly, one of the former players who is a Hall of Famer in the WNBA, she's retired now, went to my school, Texas Tech, mm-hmm. just came down and just slammed Caitlin Clark. Just doesn't like her. But there's 2 strikes against Caitlin Clark. One is, and this is the other thing about basketball, what's happened there. It is a black and lesbian dominated sport.
Most women's professional sports become that way.
It's a black and lesbian dominated sport, and Caitlin is neither one. Mm-hmm. And so they literally hate her. Yeah. I mean, they just don't like Caitlin Clark. Yeah. And they were doing everything to try to talk her down. I mean, it's sad. It's sad to watch. And here's what's funny about it, though. A lot of the commentators, even Kevin Durant, a lot of the NBA players, LeBron, these guys, they all said the WNBA needs Caitlin Clark. Mm-hmm. In fact, the WNBA final game had more viewers than the NCAA game. Yeah, the championship. The women's championship had more viewers than the men's championship.
True.
Which is the first time in history.
Yeah.
And it's because Caitlin Clark. Mm-hmm. And they said the WNBA is dying. Mm-hmm. It's dying.
I don't think it ever got off the ground myself.
Well, probably not.
Yeah.
But even from there, it's getting worse. Yeah. And yet these stupid black women and lesbian women are trying to downplay the one person who has the opportunity to bring it back.
Well, she's going to outshine them.
Yeah, but you're not going to shine at all. I mean, if you want to shine, period, you bring in the one. It would be like the men not wanting LeBron to play because he's outshining them, or Michael J. or whatever. It's the difference in men and women, I guess, but they need her. And here's what's interesting, that when they talked to the other college girls that she was playing, particularly like when they beat UConn, there's another girl from UConn, which apparently is really good. I can't remember her name.
They're friends, aren't they?
Yeah, they're friends. But she was talking up. In fact, they were trying to, because there was a controversial play towards the end, and they were trying to get her to say that, that they shouldn't have made the call and you should have won. And the girl said, just stop. Just, no, that didn't have anything to do with it, And yeah, but this girl is also going to be a future star in the WNBA. But the WNBA needs women to bring back a non-black lesbian audience to the game. Mm-hmm. but these people are so concerned with their social aspects and their sexual preferences that they don't see this. And so they're down talking the thing that could actually be lucrative for their sport and themselves. It's like, what's her name? Not Morgan, it's Rapinoe, the soccer player. I can't think of her first name right now, but Megan Rapinoe in soccer. And Megan Rapinoe was really almost the downfall of U.S. soccer. She almost single-handedly killed U.S. women's soccer because she was so obnoxious. Nobody wanted to watch the sport anymore. I didn't want to watch it. So now it's going to take a while for the WUSAL or USASL.
Women's soccer.
Yeah, women's soccer. It's going to take a while. Now, one thing that helps, Pat Mahomes and his wife have bought the Kansas City female team.
Yeah.
And if you get more people like Pat Mahomes and others investing in the sport and things, they can bring it up. But they need to have a real serious talk with these girls and say, keep your mouths shut, stand for the national anthem, and play soccer, and that's all you do.
Okay.
That's what you got. Dave.
I tell you what, I want to preface my response to you by talking about when I went to Bible school. And I'm dating girls in Bible school.
Oh, really? You weren't dating guys. Well, thanks. That's good to know. Were you the only one dating girls?
There was even a requirement for one of my classes. I had to go on a date.
Oh.
Yeah. And a bunch of us guys were talking about the struggles we're facing because there's some of the women there that thought that they were the cat's meow for, you know, the ideal preacher's wife based on how much they could preach or how well they knew the word of God and could teach and all this. And I said, when I'm looking for a woman, first I'm looking for the finer qualities of femininity, charm, class.
It wasn't butts and breasts.
The thing, yeah, it's the things where women outshine men. Women used to go to finishing school to learn these, or charm school. And when I think of the black culture of today in the women, I don't associate charm and refined dignity and grace. I think it's almost put down. I think a loud mouth and annoying. James Carville said the problem with it's going to the Democrat Party now is too many loudmouth black women. You know, yeah.
And it's funny that nobody said anything against James Carville. They're afraid to.
Right. But you were talking about something, a cultural shift that's happening in America and about who really is in the seat of power. This was like 2 years ago. I said, you mean the Karens? And you said, no, the LaQuishas and the Chantil. I forget whatever names. But you were addressing this whole narrative.
Yeah, it's a subculture. Yeah.
This subculture that has arisen and is devoid of the grace, the charm, the quietness. I mean, 1 Peter 3, he talks about Sarah. Peter, he says, that's really close to godliness.
Yeah.
I don't want to butcher it, so
I think, and here, to the credit of black women, or to take their side a bit, then I'll jump to this other thing. But to a great extent, they were pushed to that by black men, because black men have basically become pigs. Can't say it any other way. When your big deal is, especially, the hip hop culture, when all the hip hop culture seems to value
The hoes.
is hoes with big booties
Yeah.
and shaking your booties.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at videos
Yeah.
of girls with these giant butts
Yeah.
and
Puffy
and
lips.
puffy lips and low cut blouses and
Bimbos.
yeah. And then, and it's bled over into the white culture where you got people like Kim Kardashian sticking some chemical or whatever they do, shooting their rear ends, and so this has led to that because the young girls think in their mind that, well, this is what guys want.
Right. And I'm just saying, in sports, the people that we have defined as the superstars, the Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, people that didn't have the loudmouth.
Right.
They had a certain quiet confidence, the classiness.
Well, and that's when everybody used to I don't watch basketball anymore.
Right.
I used to love basketball. My wife and I, we used to just watch back when Seattle and Portland were great teams, and, and the Lakers and
Larry Bird, Magic Johnson,
Dr. J.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I agree with you. The women that we're seeing and we're somehow blaming it, they become the product of what our culture has esteemed that they should become.
Right, exactly. But here's what I was really trying to get at, though, initially, beyond that, it was bigger than that they have now, but because these same women are so fearful still of the fear of white women, there's this fear that somehow, and it's been trained. It's a trained behavior. Their mothers, their fathers, everything in their culture, their schools have taught them this. Yeah, and the culture has taught them. And now the double whammy is the gay culture has taught them this. About loathing the heterosexual culture. Yeah. So now you've got black women that hate all white, what they call Karens, and then they hate the straight white female as well, because now are they going to take away our gay culture? Are our locker rooms going to be invaded by these straight women? Yeah. And because now we've got a similar situation in track and field. Remember a couple of years ago I was telling you about Abby Steiner, the white sprinter from Kentucky. Yeah. Well, she's back. She was injured last year. She had a bone spur in her foot. She had surgery, so she didn't run all last year, and it hurt her in 2022. Yeah. So she's back, and she just ran her first race, and and she won it by a mile, but you saw her at the last probably 30 yards. She was just out of breath. She was almost jogging, but she was so far ahead of everybody. Yeah. But she's coming back. So Abby Steiner is back. Well, there was another girl that failed to make the last Olympic team because of a drug test, and then she didn't make the world championships and everything. Well, she won last year, the track and field last year. I can't remember her name right now, a black girl. But she basically was acting like a hoe. I mean, she was wearing all these really weird, all this superficial, or what would you call it, extra stuff. She had stuff hanging all off her, and wearing weird clothes and stuff like that. Instead of focusing on, last year she came back. I guess somebody told her, you better get rid of all of this stuff and act right, or you're losing all your sponsorship and everything. And last year she did, and she's back. She won last year. And but now it'll be fun to see, because if Abby comes back again this year, and it'll be on, and the hatred will start again.
Yeah. When my kids and I used to minister a lot through a church down at Fairmont Terrace, which was kind of the worst of the projects, right? 61st and Peoria. We got to know a couple of families there. There's the Williams sisters, I'll call them. 2 moms. One of them, her husband got messed up in drugs, ended up in prison. Now she's got kids there on welfare and stuff. But her sister as well, 2 boys. You know those women were raised right. They had a certain dignity and class, despite living in the worst of the slums. And they taught their kids to live right. I'm saying this to say that it's not based on your poverty level or your income level. There are people of character throughout the spectrum. You got lousy people who are super wealthy. You got lousy people who are super poor. You got people of virtue and all that.
Well, let me ask you this again. Okay, then. How is it that the girls were raised right but ended up in the projects?
Well, again, one of them, her husband got messed up in drugs.
And the other one?
And I don't know the story of the other.
See, to me, I don't think they were raised right.
I think you're absolutely narrow-minded and prejudiced, and you know too little to make that judgment. You're right to have a suspicion, but you're wrong to make a judgment until you found out the facts. You have a suspicion.
I prefaced my answer in I think.
Yes.
Just like you said, I think.
Yes.
And here's what I base it on.
Yeah.
If a person is raised right,
mm-hmm.
you implant within them the tools to study,
mm-hmm.
get a job.
Yes.
It's not about having the kids. I'm not saying that.
No.
You can be an unwed mother, but you have the skills and the drive to get out of that.
Yes.
And so that's the only thing that I'm saying,
mm-hmm.
that there was a lady, I can't think of her name right now, black. She became a Republican, a conservative, and she was a welfare lady.
Yeah.
And she finally woke up one day and realized that she's been listening to the wrong people, doing the wrong thing, you know.
Right.
And she finally got herself together and there are a lot of
That's
people
true.
like this.
That's true. Yes. But there's also health, particularly mental health. My dad had money on Wall Street, paid cash for our house, and then he had a serious mental breakdown. And it led to our poverty for years.
Okay, but you didn't mention anything about mental health with these ladies.
I don't have all of the details on it, nor do I have their permission to talk about it.
All right, then we shouldn't be talking about it.
I'm talking about the one that I do know, that it was the husband that ended up in prison because he's dealing drugs to support his own addiction.
Right, but the other one doesn't have that situation.
I don't know. All I know is I met the kids. The kids, to this day, they'll see me. Hey, Mr. Van, how you doing?
How old are the kids now?
Now they're in their 30s. Some are even in their 40s.
Okay, and
but
do the mothers still live in the project?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well,
but my point is, yes, and I met them at the worst of their difficult situation. Yet I could see the character that shined, especially in a neighborhood where it was in short supply.
Well, yeah, you're going to have that. But what I'm saying is this, that it's too easy to let people off the hook these days without requiring more.
I understand that.
But
my point was really on the issue of, in their character, I also saw in these women the finer qualities. So I'm trying to tie this in. If you are a Christian, it's going to reflect in your comportment, including in sports. And so you have to wonder what variation of Christianity, or maybe no Christianity at all. Maybe they're Muslim. Maybe they're whatever. And I'm just saying.
Well, that's another thing. The South Carolina coach, for example, is speaking all this that's a good, it's a good topic to bring up too. The fact that the South Carolina coach is a lesbian, married to a woman, has been for a long time, and yet she's up there as she's been giving praise to God and thanking Jesus and everything. And, what do you do with that?
Yeah, so did Fannie there, the prosecutor who's getting it on in Atlanta, and then going to church and testifying.
Yeah, she was there.
You're like, okay, really, what brand of Christianity approves of this?
Well, to me, the bigger problem and issue is the church that had her get up and speak. Even more so than her.
Exactly. That's a Reverend Wright kind of church.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think Reverend Wright would have had her come and speak.
Yeah.
So
I want to put a contrast for you. This is my segue.
Okay.
In women's.
This is the best stuff comes out right now.
Okay. In college sports. As I look at the Oklahoma University women's softball team, such devoutly passionate Christian women on that team who aren't particularly preachy about it. The closest they come is they refer to their term, the audience of one, referring to, I do this to glorify God, but they don't want to be preachy. So they say, well, I'm doing it for an audience of one. And the coach that encourages this kind, because she's building character, she's developing these traits that make you the best and then help you to bring out the best in your teammates.
Right.
And that's essential. So I'm just saying, I think I see a good example with the OU softball team, which is maybe the best ever.
I agree. Nobody would take issue with that. No, and I'm sure they're hated everywhere, especially on ESPN for their staunch Christian stand. I know that we need much more of that, but I'm just saying. So you have Caitlin Clark, Abby Steiner, and there are more, but we've got this growing multitude of, particularly in the female sports world, of haters that hate white heterosexual women, and something needs to happen to stem that tide, and we need a lot more Caitlin Clarks and Abby Steiners to start taking back the sport. That's when the sport will grow. We need more role models, and I think we're starting to see it too. In fact, I think I've got this is a very we'll juxtapose or not juxtapose. We'll transition
one more
to
question.
another. Oh, I'm sorry. What question
on this? Your mother, white woman, married a black man. Your wife, Vicky. How
married a half black man?
Right. But to the superficial person, it's a white woman with a black man.
Oh,
that's
right.
So I'm looking for historical context because, my daughter's married to a black man. Black women don't particularly get friendly with my daughter.
Oh, no, I know. See, that's the other thing that's so crazy because my mom and them, they never had any problems with black women. See, back in the 50s and 60s, the only problem white women had marrying a black person was with white people. And now it's the other way around. It's the black women that, taking our man. Me and a buddy of mine, he was an All-American high school football player and then played at SMU later and was injured. But we used to joke because, these same women that are making the big deal won't give that same black man the time of day when he's available. But let him look at a white woman or go out with a white woman, then all of a sudden, hey, he's ours. What are you doing? That kind of thing. It's just screwed up thinking. Their minds, no, he's not yours. He's not yours. He's a man. And you have to compete like everybody else does for a man.
Yeah.
And they don't think that. And so they think they're God's gift to men until somebody else takes them. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, whoa, wait a minute. There's something wrong with this. It's unfair.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfair. Well, why is it unfair? You had your opportunity and you stuck your nose up.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
there was a girl, cute girl from a rich neighborhood out just at the edge of town. I was visiting a buddy of mine. I said, hey, so where's everybody in the neighborhood? Because I used to hang out with friends there. And I mentioned a couple of these girls that I used to see in the neighborhood. And I left, and this kid I was visiting, he sees these girls walking by and a couple of guys with him, just kind of in a gang, you know, kind of the pack. And he says, oh, Dina, Katie, David Van was wondering where you girls were. Well, that got the boys jealous because I'm not from their neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I'm from the lower, the other side of the tracks, you know. Mm-hmm. And ends up these guys got really mad. I just had to play it up a little bit. I go cruising through the neighborhood, you know, and stuff. But I found out a couple of years later, the girls thanked me. I said, I wasn't.
Or it made them more valuable.
Now all of a sudden, the guys wanted to make a commitment to seal the ownership.
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube about the gangs of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. The old school.
That's where I was going to, because I know Philly, you probably have an even bigger version of this.
Well, yeah, and the gangs, and one of the gangs was called Bricktown. It was all white. It was the North Philly, way up, no, it was Bricktown, and then down South Philly was all Italians, white Italian. But then in the center part, pretty much, it was all the black gangs. Yeah. And so Somerville is the one where I was a part of it, and then Bricktown bordered us. Mm-hmm. In fact, I went to school with these guys from
in the neighborhood.
And so, anyway, but this video has these gang guys from the major gangs of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And so they're talking about it, and the Bricktown guys, they're all laughing because the girls from down in Tioga and Somerville, you know, they were talking about how the girls, they would date the girls from Tioga, the black girls, and you know, the girls just thought it was a big deal to have this white boyfriend, you know, one of the Bricktown boys, you know, and they were talking, and they would just laugh. All these guys, these are the old heads, all these old, they would kill each other back in the 60s, you know, they're all old, they're all our age now. But to see them, and they're just talking and reminiscing and laughing and sitting there in this circle, you know, and they all know each other, you know, and they're all just cracking up, laughing about how they used to fight and do all this stuff, you know. But they were telling a story about the black girls, you know, if you got a Bricktown boy, you were something, you know. So the black girls dating the white guy. So it was the same. It was a reverse situation. Yeah. You know, the black girls thinking they were something to date this Bricktown boy, and the guys in Tioga and Somerville and all of these other gangs being all ticked off because, you know, their girls are going out with the guys from Bricktown. I mean, it you know, like I've tried to say in my book, you know, I talk about that there's no such thing as racism. It's all a classism thing.
Tribalism.
Tribalism, right. Mm-hmm. And how, you know, before the people in England ever knew there was a black person, because most of the people didn't know until the 1800s. Right. And so when, you know, so they used to have, you know, look down upon the lower class, and the lower class couldn't fraternize with the noble class or the aristocrats. You'd be killed, you know, and that's how bad that was. So it was the same thing. But anyway, it's just funny when you look at the dynamics of all of that, you know.
No, I watched every Saturday I watch a TV show about your neighborhood. It was called Fat Albert.
Oh, hey.
Because Bill Cosby was the inspiration, and that was about growing up in Philly, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was.
Is there any accuracy to it? It was a bunch of Hollywood
maybe a
writers.
little. No. I mean, probably a little bit, but you know, like cartoons about. Yeah. You know. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Is there any accuracy to The Simpsons?
You're right, or South Park. Or anything, right. Yeah. But anyway,
South Park, there probably is some accuracy.
Oh, South Park. Oh, yeah, I love South Park.
Yeah, South Park is something else. Yep. Those guys, they don't care. I mean, there's something.
And you know, the PC crowd has tried to silence them for a long time.
Yeah, they won't.
You know,
hey,
segue.
Oh yeah. So I was talking about Kansas. I don't know what's wrong with these people now. Have you seen the Kansas governor?
I had heard something in the
Well, her
news.
name's Laura Kelly.
Okay.
And Laura vetoed a bill banning transgender treatment for minors.
Right. I believe that's a Democrat governor, right?
It probably is. I don't know. I can't imagine her being a Republican.
Yeah.
But anyway, and abortion restrictions. She vetoed all these bills, and she vetoed Friday this bill that would have banned transgender treatment for minors, as well as bills imposing the abortion restrictions. A substitute bill for Senate Bill 233 sought to outlaw transgender treatment for minors and allow for causes of action against healthcare providers who provided abortions and transgender. This division, and here's what she says: this divisive legislation targets a small group of Kansans by placing government mandates on them and dictating to parents how to best raise and care for their children. Kelly, a Democrat, said in a statement release, I do not believe that is a conservative value, and it's certainly not a Kansas value. Like she cares about a conservative value.
Yeah, I tell you, most of the money in their state Medicaid program, most of the funding, like 90-some%, is coming from the federal government.
Yeah.
Now, transpose this with England, which this last week put a ban on any gender treatment for minors, because the state, the federal government pays the bill for it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you get people do the right thing for no other purpose than money.
Right.
And so, we've got that, which, by the way, we got to talk about the Arizona ruling on that 150-year-old abortion bill.
Okay.
But,
you're right.
But she's not having to balance the books because the federal government is paying for it.
Right.
And, for her.
But just the fact that she doesn't in any way consider what it's doing to these kids.
Right.
That's what gets me.
Yeah.
And the bigger question is, what's wrong with these parents? Who would do this? I remember when we came here, the whole deal back in the 90s, I couldn't send my kids to school with Tylenol.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Right.
You had to give it to the school nurse, and if the kid had a headache or something, they would have to go to the school nurse to ask for it. I mean, and now a lot of the schools can send the kid to an abortion doctor or a transitioning doctor without the parents' permission, and keep it from them. I mean, what in the world has happened in our country? Yeah.
I'm just looking up the makeup. They're about 2/3 Republican in the legislature. I want to say that because in Ohio, Governor DeWine did the same thing.
And he's a Republican.
Yes, and the legislature overrode the veto.
Right.
So I think it's possible here.
Yeah, I wonder if they have enough in there to do it.
You got 85 Republican House members and 40 Democrats. And then in the Senate, it's 29-11. So it's, they have more than 2/3.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
On both. So, we'll see what happens there. And I don't know how their constitution is written as far as overriding, but that's a possibility.
Yeah. Another thing.
Can we talk about Arizona? Or now's not a good time?
Oh, no. I think I've got some, but no, I think now would be a good time. Okay. It's closer to this. It's better to do it now, yeah.
So the Supreme Court of the state of Arizona said, remember, Arizona became a state after Oklahoma did. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're like, 49th or something like that? Or maybe 47th?
No, 48th.
Okay.
49 was Alaska.
Okay, so This territorial government law, statute by the legislature of the territory actually said, abortion is illegal, killing an unborn baby unless it's to save the life of the mother. Mm-hmm. And I am so distraught about the Republicans who I thought were pro-life. And it brings about it because a whole bunch of people, including Carrie Lake, said that she fully supports this kind of law, except when it is law, and now she condemns it. Very disappointed in her. And I'm watching Republicans just falling all over themselves, worrying about what's going to happen this November, because there will be a vote of the people to restore the right to kill babies. And then I'm hearing people say, Newsmax, almost, unanimously say, Mike Huckabee saying, well, you don't ever punish the mother.
Well, yeah, that's a silly argument.
We've lost the argument.
Right. Here's the other side. Okay. Because Carrie Lake is following Trump. Okay. That's what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah. Donald Trump came out and felt it was not a good ruling.
Yeah, he lied too.
How did he lie?
He said that that's Reagan's position. Reagan's position was for one exception, and that's the life of the mother. It's the only thing he actually advocated for.
Okay, all right. So what was...
Trump wants to make it okay to kill a baby if his parent is either a close relative or a rapist. Okay. Those kids deserve to be murdered.
All right, okay. Well, here's the way I look at it. I don't think Trump thinks it's okay to murder, but what he's saying is this. See, there's two ways to look at this, okay? And I'm not saying this because of Trump, or I'm saying it because no matter who's there, being wise as serpents and harmless as doves, okay? What you're going to do now, you're going to drive the pro-abortion lobby, the pro-abortion people. They're all going to come up and they're going to come out in numbers. They're just chomping at the bits at this ruling. Okay?
That's what we're hearing. Yeah, I don't know.
Trust me. Okay, we'll see. But okay. Yeah. So it reminds me of back in 2000 and about 2005, 4 or 5, where George W. Bush, one of the most intelligent statements he ever did make, probably a close second to his strategery statement. No, just kidding. But no, he said he is president and not a dictator. Mm-hmm. I don't think judges should be making a ruling one way or another. Okay. Judges should rule on the constitutionality, basically, of a law. Mm-hmm. All right. The law needs to be made. Now, what you're saying, did the legislature, was this a bill that they ruled on?
It was a law enacted, but what we have to look at is, does the Constitution, when they became a state,
right,
does it grandfather in all the territorial statutes as law? And if that's true...
Okay, what was Arizona law at the current time?
Well, they weren't enforcing anything because of Roe versus Wade. But
right.
Now they have to look at it, and there was an argument whether or not this is legitimate. It went through the courts, and the final ruling is, yes, that is active law.
Okay, so there was an anti-abortion law way back when it was
150 years ago.
150. Okay, all right. Well then, yeah, but really, because here's my thoughts on the whole deal. If it truly is by the people, then it needs to be voted on. Okay. And the people have to make the decision, whether I like it or not. I may not like it. If I'm a true, strict constitutionalist, as we always say, otherwise I become a dictator. And that's what George W. Bush said. He said, if you want to, because all the people were always wanting to override Roe v. Wade. Okay. And he said, I can't do it. I'm not a dictator. I'm the president. You bring me a law that does this, I will sign it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in this case, we know, we don't know, but let me put it this way. I am 90% certain, especially in Arizona, 90 to 95% certain that when they vote in November, that they will come up with a more liberal abortion law. They're going to throw this out. It's going to be changed again. Okay. So you're going to do that. And not only is it going to affect that, but it's going to affect the future legislature for the next 2 and 6 years.
Right.
And therefore you have really won nothing by this. And see, here's my thought beyond that. Okay. I actually think that the Supreme Court of Arizona probably ruled this way on purpose to bring out the people to come out against conservatives in November.
I don't know.
No, I don't either. Yeah. I'm just saying because the way everything's been played, this is the only move that Democrats have today, right now. Yeah. That's the only real move they have, is playing on this fear of ending abortion, which I hate. I mean, if that's all you've got, shame on you. Shame on you, and may you rot in hell. I mean, that's all I can say. Okay.
You have to first of all decide, what is the right ruling? Because the case was brought to them. Mm-hmm. They didn't go hunting it up. Okay, so this wasn't activism. Did they make the right ruling? I haven't seen anybody refute the accuracy of their ruling. Okay, so why they did the right thing is almost immaterial. My issue here is when people lie about history, lie about other people's legacies, or maybe they're just misinformed. I'm referring to Trump here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because and I understand it's largely a pragmatic versus idealistic thing, because Jerry Falwell did the same thing. And I felt like he actually defeated his own moral authority when he said he would support a bill that made allowance for rape and incest. Now you're a eugenicist when you do that. You say, some babies don't deserve our protection, like kids whose father was a rapist, or whose mother had sex with an underage kid, because that's statutory rape too. She committed the rape and she's the one pregnant. Right. And she should have a right to, if she's getting it on with 15-year-old boys. Okay. Or to say because two siblings or close relatives, they're getting it on, they deserve the right to kill their own kids. You know, you don't kill those babies because of who their parents are. No,
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, that makes you a eugenicist. A Darwinist.
What I think the statement was poorly crafted and made. What I probably would have done is to say that I believe all life deserves to be allowed to live.
Yeah.
The courts have ruled, mm-hmm. and it's up to Arizona to decide how to handle this.
Yeah. Yes. I think you also have to make a separation between what you believe morally mm-hmm. is right and wrong, and that which you are committed to enforcing by law.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a certain time frame where, like for instance, somebody whose monthly menstruation comes late, did they induce? Did they try to end a pregnancy? It's really hard to try to enforce criminal law of an illegal abortion in a situation like that. You make a moral statement of right and wrong, but that which you can, you would have to get rid of the birth control pill in order to get rid of the morning after pill, because it's the same drug.
Right.
It's just different dose.
Yeah. See, what Kerry Lake should have done, probably what Donald Trump should have done, was to say that this is a state matter. I have no jurisdiction here. If the people of Arizona, which the issue will be brought up again, I'm sure, and it'll be answered in November.
Yeah.
I have no further comment. Kerry Lake should have said, if people want it overturned, there's a ballot box and it'll be answered in November. But see, the bigger fear I have is that what this is going to do, it's going to get out the whole pro-choice vote.
I understand
and
that.
They use that every time, and they'll use it every time. Every 2 years, it'll be the same old, and you won't be able to see. And see, here's the problem. Because of that, you hamstring yourself, because you can't ever get a majority to win the majority.
I understand that, but if you lose the philosophical argument by being inconsistent, one of the things, before I really got to know you well, you said something to Pat Campbell on the radio that I knew you were a person of integrity, is when Trump was saying, mothers who seek to end abortion need to face punishment for that. And boy, the handlers got a hold of him and Trump flipped. And you said, actually, I think Trump had it right the first time. Because who amongst us are allowed to go hire a hitman to kill somebody off and then say, well, I shouldn't face charges. I didn't kill him.
No, that's true.
Eddie's got it right. Eddie's position is infallible. It is consistent.
Right. And see, this is still my position. What upsets me is we have put too much responsibility on the government, and we've become lazy. The church has become lazy. Individuals have become lazy. We expect the government to do it all.
Yeah.
Instead of changing the hearts and minds. See, here's what's weird. Before this whole overturn of Roe v. Wade, the minds of America were turning. Mm-hmm. There was a huge swing. People were turning against the open abortion. Mm-hmm. Okay? They were starting to hate abortion. Mm-hmm. Ever since then, it started to swing back the other way since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, because it became a big issue. We took it out of the reaching the hearts and minds. Now we've got it back to the battle between the pro-life and the pro-choice advocacy groups, and it's the one who's spending the most money, the ones who are, well, on our side we're not lying, but the other side that is going to tell the most lies. And I don't see us gaining ground, and that's the sad part to me. So my thing is, it's going to go to the legislature again in November anyway.
Yeah. I just think that when you misrepresent someone like Ronald Reagan and make him a tool of the baby.
Well, that may be, I don't know. Well, Trump does that. 25,000 at the ORU Stadium.
Yeah, I know.
You know, so
it bothers me. It really
well,
does.
I can tell it bothers you. So I don't know. I haven't seen the statement. I don't know, the context. I'd have to send it to me. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
And we can evaluate. I can't speak
Yeah.
intelligently on it because I have not read or heard the statement.
Yeah, no, Reagan wrote a book on the issue of abortion while he was president. Rarely does that happen. And he makes the exception of a life of the mother. In fact, when he was debating Carter, he said the right of self-defense goes back to the Magna Carta. That right to protect your life from a life that's,
the Catholic Church, for many, I don't know if they've ever changed, but they didn't even allow it for the life of the mother.
Yeah.
They said it was God's, God's choice.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a movie out in 1961, I think, The Cardinal. We may have talked about this, and a great movie. Shows a guy who first goes into the priesthood, and it shows us all the way up into becoming a cardinal. And his sister becomes a drug addict and becomes pregnant and ends up having a problem pregnancy. And he's the only relative, and he has to make the decision on whether they kill the baby or let the mother die. And he chooses to let the mother die to save the baby. It was a hard decision, but he made that choice as a priest. And of course, in the ending, as he becomes cardinal, the baby was a girl, and she's grown up now, and she looks just like the mother. And he helped raise her, gave money for her and everything. But so it had a happy ending, but it was a tough deal. Yeah, that the mother died because he made that choice. Yeah,
the thing I deal with in this is the principle: those who will embrace pro-life for political gain will also abandon pro-life for political gain.
Yeah. See, but there are. It depends on your definition of pro-life, and what I'm saying. Like, I'm a staunch pro-life as well. Okay, yeah, I think a baby should be born regardless. Okay, I believe rape, incest, regardless. Let the baby be born. Okay, all right. But at the same time, I don't demand everybody is at my level. In fact, I understand that not everybody is at my level, so I don't demand that from them. So it's kind of, and I know a lot of people are going to hate this, it's kind of like the Mark Wayne Mullen rule, 70-30. If
that's the pragmatism,
right? But it's the fact that until a person can see, I don't want to drive somebody so far away that they can't see. I want to bring them my way until I get them to see. Yeah. And that's the thing. I do not want to create enemies. I don't want to. I'm in this argument. I'll just go here on Facebook. There's a big biblical argument. And it's about the wrath of God towards man. Is the wrath of God towards men, towards the individual, or is it towards sin? My argument is that the wrath is directed towards the sin in man, not towards man. And there are these people on there that cannot understand that it's towards the sin. And they just think that a sinner needs to suffer the wrath of God. And it's almost like there's no mercy. When, if the person is delivered or separated from the sin, there's no more wrath. So that tells you that the wrath is not against the person. In fact, Jesus came to die for the person. He just wants you to get rid of the sin. Yep. And the only way to get rid of the sin is through accepting him, accepting his forgiveness and his blood. But for some people, it's almost like they're ready to relegate this person to hell
Yeah.
without the process of coming to Jesus and
Yep.
being delivered from the sin.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I look at this, that I can't expect a pro-abortion person to overnight. I'd like to see that. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. I'd like that. But I don't demand that you have got to all of a sudden shun all abortion at every given moment right now.
Yeah.
In fact, you've seen that movie, right? What's that movie? It was a popular Christian, I guess it was a Christian movie about the lady that ran the abortion clinics until the day she saw the abortion. And then it finally dawned on her. She was thinking, slowly, because she saw the protesters out there all the time. And then finally one day she saw and her eyes were open and she realized that, and now she's one of the major pro-life advocates, right? Yeah. Well, that's what happens. My own daughter had an abortion and saw the light later.
It would be like being in support of Hitler's racial policies until you worked at Auschwitz.
Yeah,
because
until
now
you had to turn the gas on.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you actually see the carnage.
Yeah.
But I want to get to your most recent point, but before I do, one of Jonathan Small's vice presidents, Trent England.
At OCPA.
Yes, at OCPA said never, he used to be on the radio at a morning show, he said never outsource your moral convictions to the legal code. What's right and wrong shouldn't be defined by the state.
I agree. That's exactly.
And I think that's very true. Now, about who deserves to die and who doesn't. Love the sinner, but hate the sin. Charlie Kirk said something.
So we're done with the abortion. This is
my segue. Get ready. It's coming.
Okay.
Charlie Kirk said something today, or 2 days ago. It really disappointed me. Breaking news, come on. O.J. Simpson is dead. And O.J., Charlie Kirk just disparaged him and then said, I'm glad he's dead. Suffered a death to the hands of cancer. And I just said, Charlie, no! I mean, I'm literally yelling at the TV and my wife's sitting there. You never rejoice
over the death.
At somebody's death like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I prayed for the guy to turn, and I mean, can you imagine? I was, the whole time I was thinking, dude, what must it be like every night when you go to bed? Mm-hmm. Every night before you go to sleep, in that moment before you go to sleep, when you think about your life and what you've done, what's waiting for you.
Yeah.
Especially when you know you're about to die and think about all you've done. Did he confess to someone? Did he ask forgiveness? I like to ask Charlie, what if he accepted Christ on his deathbed? Would you accept that?
Right. Here's the thing. What is his main beef with O.J.? So O.J. decided who deserved to die. And now you just did too.
No, I agree. That's not good. That's not good at all.
Yeah. And this is the thing, Eddie, is our examples politically, culturally, religiously, sometimes are going to disappoint us. And sometimes we got to call out our own leadership.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, listen, I literally cannot stand Joe Biden. But do I wish him to die?
Yeah.
No. I would love for him to be removed from office, but I don't necessarily want him to die. I would want him to have the opportunity to repent before he passes away. He and his wife. I think his wife is just as evil as him, maybe more so, because she at least is still cogent.
Yeah.
Or not cogent. What was you?
Coherent.
Coherent. Thank you. I'm using all the wrong words today. I'm like that comedian that used to make a whole thing about using the wrong terms. But anyway, coherent. She still knows what's. I was thinking about cognitive abilities and cogent. That's funny. But anyway, yeah, it's just you can't be that hateful to anyone, and,
right?
It's got to be in God's hands. You've got to trust. My favorite psalm, the psalm that honestly has carried me through more than any other, is Psalm 37. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, Charlie started criticizing the Bidens and Mrs. Biden particularly. He falls for the same problem. I mean, Eddie, I don't want to get, correcting you. Like, you use the term Native American today. You're referring to tribal members in that.
Indians,
there we go. But Charlie Kirk said, is his Joe Biden's wife, who's a fake doctor. No, she actually has a doctorate. She's not a physician. But we've changed the term doctor now to take the place of physician. Physician is just one type of doctorate. Doctorate is a degree.
Yeah, no, I understand. But Jill, I understand what he's saying, because she tends to try to make her doctorate seem more than it is.
What's an educational one? A doctorate in education.
No, I understand, but Jill does like to imply, or have people imply, that it expands more than just education. Yeah. No, I understand your point that she truly is a PhD in ed, PhD ED, right? Should probably be a DED or something. They should come up with, for example, a doctor of theology. It's a THD, right? Or D, what is it? Doctor of ministry, DMIN, doctor of ministry. Something like. They should probably have a DED. Something like that for, like that. Well, you have a DMD,
right?
Well, you have not DMD. You have an MD, and then you have PhD,
right?
So yeah,
but
and they're all doctors.
It's just a level of educational advanced,
right?
But I've just use language that actually means things. And we twist words for political purposes. I see it all the time now in news. They keep on in advertising referring to Native American. And I say, hey, I am not a tribal member nor ethnicity, but I'm a Native American nonetheless. And so
what would you call them pre-Americans? I mean, there's
actually a good term called First Americans.
I wouldn't even call them that, because they weren't really American. In fact, they're still not Americans.
You're wrong there. No.
Strictly speaking.
No, strictly does not mean United States.
Exactly.
It means of the American hemispheres. I mean, the American continents, North and South America. To be a Native American means you were born in the Americas.
So,
an Argentinian by birth is an American.
Do we call them Americans?
Not in our vernacular.
Do we call Canadians Americans?
Yeah, not in our vernacular.
Okay, then.
But the reason why we're referred to in South and Central America as gringos is because we go down there and say we're Americans like they're not.
Yeah, but they don't call themselves Americans.
No, they don't, but they represent themselves by but it's that term. By the way, it was the Europeans that actually gave us that term.
After Amerigo Vespucci.
Well, there's that, but I'm talking about when Franklin and Jefferson went over to France as our ambassadors from the United States of America. It was just simpler to say Americans.
Right. But America came from Amerigo Vespucci.
That's where the term comes from, right?
So, and they shorten it as Americans and the Germans shorten it to we're Amis.
I'm saying before there was a United States government, a country called the United States.
Right.
All of those.
Yeah, it was called the Americas.
Were the
Americas, right.
So they were Americans.
Right, we understand that.
When Squanto was sold into slavery, he was referred to as an American slave.
Right.
So we just bastardized terms, and they've lost their meaning.
Dave, you can make a bigger deal out of less than anybody I've ever seen.
Because when it's used as a hammer politically, when the tribes act like they're more American than I am.
Well,
no, they're not.
No. I've got. Well, see, but that's a whole different discussion. No. I mean, call them pre-Americans,
right?
Or actually, you know what the best term is? American Aboriginals.
Yes.
Like Australian Aboriginals.
Right.
So they're Aboriginals of America.
Right.
Right.
But I'm just saying there are another term that I actually like, which kind of classified all the different tribes of more than one millennia, referred to them all as the first Americans.
But they're not really Americans.
If they were born
But it wasn't America back then.
It's what we're referring to, that land body.
Exactly. So why don't you just call them Aboriginals?
But yet distinguish them from the Australian Aboriginals.
Yeah, so you call them Aboriginals of the Americas.
Mm-hmm. North American Aboriginals.
Yeah, North American. Yeah, you could have North American and South American, Central American, yeah.
But First Peoples was another term that I don't have a problem with.
Right.
I'm trying to be tolerant, Eddie.
Yeah, you just don't want them to be Native Americans.
As though I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I am constitutionally...
Well, if you were born here, you're a native to America.
Exactly.
Right,
that's my point. Because it has to do with my rights to become potentially president or my kids after me.
Like I'm not a Native American.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. See, so you should be listening to me.
Instead of this foreigner who's telling you how to live.
Actually, Eddie, you have the same qualifications that John McCain has. So yeah. So your dad.
Well, I don't know if it's the same qualifications, but of that that particular qualification, yeah. But he had a few other ones.
Well, if one of your parents was an American in service overseas.
Right. No, that I understand. Yeah. The only problem with mine is that I actually had to be sworn in, and I was born a German citizen.
At the time, you were only recognized
and
as
he
German.
was not. Right.
But you could go back and fix that.
Oh, yeah. Now, later. They didn't let me do it back in the day, as they say. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah. Hey, let's move on to this. Energy prices are soaring again.
Yes, and about to probably weekend trading.
But did you know this? The Biden administration. This has to be the stupidest administration I've ever seen in my life, especially pulling up to election. I guess they're counting on this abortion vote again. That's the only thing I can think of. But the Biden administration, they've jacked up the cost of drilling on public lands again. The bond companies must secure before they start drilling has now increased 10 times, Dave. The bond to drill is now $150,000 from $10,000. Yeah. That's part of it. That's just part of it. Okay. The other part, if I can get to page 2 with my short-fingered nailed fingers. The Department of Interior announced it has revised the Bureau of Land Management's oil and gas leasing regulations, which will raise royalty rates for the first time in 100 years and update federal onshore oil and gas leasing. Under the new rule, the minimum royalty rate the government is paid from 12.5% to 16.67%.
Yeah.
So it's basically 4.5%, almost 5% more. So you got to pay more for the bond to drill, and then once you get the oil, you got to pay 5% more.
Their royalties are higher than the private sector.
Right.
Wow. And this is all Biden executive orders.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know what it is, they're trying to get more money, but what they don't realize, anytime you do this, it's going to create less of it.
Yeah.
Because people are just going to get less leases on government land. Mm-hmm. But of course, you know what the next thing is? They're going to declare more land, their land, government land. That's the other thing. They just declare more and more as public land. So
yeah, and the way they do it is by declaring monuments. When something is a federal monument, it is taken off of the availability for even cattle to graze on. So, you know, national forests are used for a number of things, and you can lease them. But when it's a monument, you can't. It's not leasable. So,
Trump trials.
Yeah.
The trials of Donald J. Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a felony.
Stormy Daniels case coming up.
Yeah. No, that's one where essentially in New York City, they're trying to say, he paid off this woman to keep her silent. He must have used campaign money, money that was donated to him from other people, which has certain limits. I haven't seen any evidence that Trump didn't pay it himself out of his own.
They don't need that evidence.
Right.
They can just say it.
And it's normally, you know, if somebody's guilty of it, it's normally an administrative fine. Sometimes could be a misdemeanor. But now they're using a combination of New York state law and federal law to make one hybrid law that elevates it to a felony.
Where have I heard this before?
Yeah.
It's the same with the other situation with his, Trump Tower deal. Mm-hmm. They keep doing this. They keep trying to make one hybrid law out of.
Yeah, makes about as much sense as dual exhaust on a Tesla. You know, you just it makes no sense at all.
But it looks good.
I know. I thought of that all by myself. I was literally driving into your neighborhood today behind a Tesla, and I'm looking at it. It's pretty plain.
And you're picturing it with.
And I'm looking at the bumper. It's very plain. Like, there's no exhaust pipe. Mm-hmm. Duh!
But you should have thought, boy, just think how good it would look with a dual exhaust.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good looking sports car.
Even if it didn't, even if they don't work, just stick them on there for trim.
It is a good looking sports car, but it had no rumble to it at all.
Of course not.
Just,
But you know, it gets me, speaking at these Mustangs and Camaros.
Yeah.
That you hear coming a mile
Oh,
away.
yeah. In the Harleys in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know, what I prefer, you know, I would like to get, I mean, I love Camaros and some of the Mustangs, but I would love to get one, you know, and a hot one because there's no need. It doesn't have to sound like that. You know
right.
that. But I would love to get one, you know, with the appropriate mufflers. Mm-hmm. It's just fast as all get out, but it's just quiet as a church mouse.
Yeah.
And get up next to somebody and somebody's loud one next to a loud one, you know, and just quietly just blow them away.
You know, the thing I hated most back in my freshman year of college, my Volkswagen Beetle, was the horn. It just was not a masculine. Beep, beep, like a little buzzer.
My wife has a RAV4. Toyota. And it's a new one. I mean, it's a 23. Yeah. Right? And newish. It's a year old.
It's a nice car.
Yeah. So anyway, and every time I forget what the horn sounds like, and it beep beep.
Yeah.
You know, and oh my God, why did I even honk this thing?
Yeah.
Why did they even put this on here? You know, it's worthless. You know, and in my car, at least, thank goodness, it's a horn.
That's right.
That's a regular real horn, you know.
Yeah.
But why would you even bother to put,
Yeah.
you know, it's like the craziest thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's funny. But
Yeah. So Trump is actually facing his first criminal trial.
Right.
Yeah.
Which of course will be, appealed, of course. I predict he'll lose, and they'll have to appeal that one. Yeah. They're all, and they're going to try to set another bail before they let him out for the appeal, and you know, unless they try to pull something that, you know, because the crime was so egregious, he has to. I mean, you know, they've elevated this to rape, you know, or will or try something like that. I mean, these people are just. If you haven't figured out by now that they will do any and everything to try to get this guy, you're just nuts. Okay, you just. It's like the song "Short People."
Yeah,
got no reason to live.
Yeah.
You got no reason to live. You know, I mean, it's just,
got no reason.
It's beyond the pale.
It's dual exhaust on the Tesla.
It's dual. Thank you. I'm gonna start using that. Dual exhaust on the Tesla.
Remember, I made that up by myself.
That is yours. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, do T-shirts. You know.
There you go. Hey, by the way, I'm looking at headlines. Biden just canceled his weekend. His return to the White House must be serious. Israel cancels all public events and places armed forces on full alert for attack. So a lot's going on, and right now Iranian special forces have taken over a cargo ship, Straits of Hormuz. This is partly owned by an Israeli shipping magnate. So there's things ramping up right now, hour by hour. So
well, here we go.
Yeah.
And you said the eclipse didn't mean anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was weird. You notice that you felt like it's getting cloudy or something, but it wasn't cloudy. No, it's just like, half wattage in the sun.
I actually thought it would be darker than
it
was. And it was like a real cloudy, overcast day.
Yeah, and the one that happened, what was it? It was 7 years ago. We had a partial. That one, the trajectory kind of went Wichita, Kansas, down to Joplin, and it was kind of a different trajectory.
How come we never get the 100%?
Yeah.
We always get the little slice. This one was pretty good. It was 95%.
Yeah.
You just had the real little sliver.
Yeah.
Did you have glasses? Did you get the glasses?
No, but I tell you, I remembered I was talking to my mom while it was happening on the phone. She's up in Minnesota. And I'm standing outside, front gate, and I used to have a really pretty holly tree. And I remember standing in the exact same place 7 years ago. And this holly tree, which, thick leaves are sharp, prickly things, but the sunlight's kind of trickling through it. And down on the sidewalk by my driveway, where you'd see just little flickers of sunlight, there are little crescent moons everywhere.
Yeah.
That same pinhole thing, because I did that.
Right. The pinhole shows it.
Yeah. But I remember it was much more pronounced. We had a little problem because we had high-level clouds, some cirrus clouds, so that it didn't give us the full effect this time. But I remember that time it was more pronounced. All of a sudden, these crescent moons all over the sidewalk.
Oh, that would be cool.
It was.
Take a picture. Did you take a picture?
I don't know if I did or not.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Because I just wasn't expecting it.
That would be an artist's thing to do, to throw a mat down or something and wait for that and then take through the trees, get the crescents, and then take a photo. That would be quite win an award or something.
It was the most bizarre thing because you didn't find that in a textbook anywhere.
Right.
It just happened, and I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Something that only happens maybe a few times in a century at best.
Yeah. Hey, something we didn't talk about, and I really want to get him in here, is Ryan Walters.
Yeah.
One of his assistants, I don't know her name, she is now resigned and attacking him.
Okay.
I smell a rodent.
Sure.
I think what I see is somebody that is wanting to run for his office down the future.
I'm sure they're recruiting.
Yeah. And this is what's so disheartening to me, that you have these people, sadly it's women, you know, I mean, I don't want to pick on you women, but it's women that happen to do this so often, that are just, I don't know, they're so untrustworthy. It's just hard to, you know, and yeah, there are guys too, but here in the education realm, we just keep seeing this with women.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. So we need to get Ryan in here and talk with him about several things, but this is one of them, because she's now attacking him and saying that, you know, he's not doing this and this and this. And she's only been there, I think, 3 months or so. She hasn't even been there that long, and jumped right in and is already attacking him. So you talk about a real piece of work. This is a real piece of work.
Yeah. That's you.
Wow.
You pressed a button.
I did. I guess we're supposed to stop. Hey, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. It's the Lord.
Pull the plug on us. All right.
That is funny.